It began as a confident challenge. Donald Trump stepped onto the stage certain he would control the exchange. Yet within minutes, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett shifted the atmosphere using calm focus and factual clarity. By the third question, Trump was not simply struggling in the discussion. He appeared to be searching for an exit. The stage lights were intense, cameras were fixed on every movement, and the tension in the auditorium was unmistakable. This was not a routine political forum. It felt like a situation ready to escalate. The moment changed when Donald Trump leaned toward the microphone, gestured across the stage, and spoke words that brought the room to a halt. "You want a real debate? Let's go." A wave of reaction followed, as the audience moved between surprise and anticipation. Whispers spread, seats shifted, and attention turned toward the person he had addressed. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, dressed in a sharp navy blazer and composed expression, remained steady. She did not look to the moderators or seek reassurance from her team. Holding Trump's gaze, she replied evenly, "I was born ready." The crowd responded again, this time with clear respect. Just moments earlier, the event had followed a predictable format, another panel marked by prepared statements and short answers. Now, it had shifted into something unexpected. A live, unscripted exchange between two political figures with sharply different approaches. Trump had been consistent throughout the evening, asserting control with confidence, sharp remarks, and a sense of performance that kept him at the center of attention. However, he had misjudged his opponent. Crockett had spoken sparingly until then. She observed carefully, measured the moment, and when the opportunity arrived, she took full command. The moderators exchanged uncertain looks. This situation had not been planned. There were no clear guidelines for how to proceed. Still, with the audience engaged and cameras recording every second, interrupting was no longer an option. The focus had shifted beyond their control. Trump straightened in his seat, believing he had forced the moment in his favor. From his perspective, this was a familiar move: apply pressure and establish authority. Crockett, however, showed no sign of discomfort. She leaned back, crossed her legs, and waited for the discussion to begin in earnest. In that brief silence, the shift became clear. This was not unfamiliar territory for her. As a former public defender, Crockett had faced intense scrutiny and difficult opponents under far more demanding conditions. Pressure was not new to her. It was something she understood well. Trump, on the other hand, relied on engaging the crowd. His strength came from creating moments, drawing reactions, and controlling attention. But this was not a rally. The audience was mixed, attentive, questioning, and prepared to listen to substance rather than volume. And Crockett was prepared for that setting. The moderator, still regaining balance, leaned forward. "All right," he said carefully. "If both candidates agree, we'll move forward with a direct debate. First question coming up." That confirmed it. Trump had initiated the challenge, and Crockett had accepted without hesitation. This was no longer a display of performance. It had become a real-time exchange of ideas, experience, and perspective. One side brought years of visibility and spectacle. The other brought insight shaped by first-hand work in courtrooms, underserved communities, and conversations often ignored. The tension remained strong. Trump adjusted his cufflinks and scanned the audience as he often did, searching for engagement. Crockett stayed still. She was not looking outward for momentum. She was already grounded in it. This moment represented more than policy differences. It reflected two distinct views of leadership. The audience leaned forward, not because of raised voices, but because the discussion had become genuinely uncertain and meaningful. Trump may have initiated the confrontation, but it was clear Crockett was there with purpose. Then the first question arrived, cutting through the silence that followed the challenge. What does it truly mean to fight for the American people? The wording was simple, but its weight was significant. This was not about figures or funding. It was a measure of conviction, lived experience, and credibility. A genuine answer could not be memorized. It had to be understood. Trump spoke first. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table, moving with the ease of someone used to commanding attention. No one, he said with a slight grin, had fought harder for the American people than he had. He brought jobs back. He strengthened the border. He cut taxes. He told the world America would no longer be taken advantage of. He paused between each claim, allowing the audience to take them in like a record of achievements. He said he did not stay behind closed doors drafting policy papers. He went out and delivered results. He fought the media. He fought government insiders. He fought for the people. Some in the audience nodded. The delivery was familiar, firm, confident, absolute. This was the version of Trump his supporters expected, certain of his impact and comfortable in his record. He leaned back, clearly satisfied. Then attention shifted to Jasmine Crockett. She did not rush. She did not adjust the microphone or posture herself for effect. She sat upright, exhaled softly, and spoke in a steady, composed tone. Fighting for the people means showing up when no one is watching, she said. It means being present when the cameras are off. Not to claim credit, but to accept responsibility. The room grew quiet. She was not relying on slogans. She was speaking from experience. She described growing up in a neighborhood where politicians appeared only during election season. They smiled, posed for photos, and disappeared afterward. She remembered watching her mother work double shifts at a hospital just to keep their household afloat. She remembered classmates who were just as capable but never got the same opportunities. Those experiences shaped her. Her voice remained calm and steady. Before entering Congress, she explained, she worked as a public defender. She was not delivering speeches. She was spending her days in courtrooms, trying to stop young black men from being swallowed by a system that often failed to recognize their humanity. She briefly looked toward Trump. You say you fought for the people, she said, but you fought from the top. I've been fighting from the bottom. The statement landed with force. A brief silence followed, not from confusion but from recognition. Trump shifted slightly. His usual quick responses did not apply. This was not an attack. Crockett had drawn a clear distinction and defined her position. For some, she continued, fighting for the people means signing executive orders. For me, it meant sitting across from a terrified teenager and telling him I would fight to keep him out of prison for something he didn't do. And not once, every single day. She leaned back, folding her hands. You don't earn the title of fighter by being the loudest. You earn it by showing up when it's difficult. Especially when it's difficult. There was no sudden applause. The audience remained quiet, listening, processing. In that moment, Crockett was not just answering a debate question. She was revealing who she was. Trump started to speak, then stopped. There was nothing to interrupt and nothing to dismiss. The moderator thanked both speakers and moved on, but the tone of the room had already changed. Trump may have initiated the challenge, but Crockett had responded in an unexpected way. Not with intensity, but with substance. Not with anger, but with reality. She did not overpower him. She grounded the discussion. And everyone watching could sense it. The moderator moved quickly, recognizing the shift, and introduced the next question with greater focus. Can you describe a moment when your integrity was tested under pressure, with real consequences at stake? It was a question that demanded authenticity. Could not be answered with slogans. Trump answered first again. He straightened and spoke with the authority of someone used to scrutiny. There were many moments, he said, but one of the most significant was facing multiple investigations. He called them witch hunts, politically motivated attacks meant to destroy him. He gestured openly to the audience. Most people, he said, would have quit. They would have walked away. But he did not. He stood firm because he believed he had done nothing wrong. That, he said, was integrity, refusing to back down when things became difficult. He waited for the response he usually received. The applause was polite but scattered. The audience was listening carefully now, evaluating rather than reacting. Then it was Crockett's turn. She paused briefly, letting the weight of the question settle. Then she leaned forward. My integrity was tested before I ever came to Washington, she said. As a young public defender, fresh out of law school, she represented a 17-year-old accused of armed robbery. The evidence was weak. A single eyewitness who later admitted they could not clearly identify the suspect. Still, prosecutors pushed for a conviction. They offered a deal, 10 years in exchange for a guilty plea. If he went to trial and lost, he faced 30. She recalled how he asked her what to do. Her voice softened. She saw a frightened teenager who had never been given a fair chance. She told him the truth. If he did not do it, they would fight the case, regardless of the risk. The room was silent. She knew she could lose. She knew she could be blamed. But integrity, she said, means standing with someone when they have no one else. Not because it is easy, but because it is right. They went to trial and won. He walked free. He still contacts her just to say thank you. That, she concluded, is integrity under pressure. Not when people are watching, but when someone's life depends on your decision. The impact was immediate. Trump remained quiet. Her response was not political, it was personal. You cannot argue with lived experience. You can only listen. Trump attempted to recover. He said he respected her story but added that being president involved far greater stakes. Nations, militaries, and global economies. Crockett nodded. And if you don't understand what it feels like to have one life depend on you, she replied, how can you carry the weight of millions? It was not an insult. It was a warning. Trump did not answer. The next question followed. What would you say to a working-class family struggling to survive? One that no longer trusts either political party. Trump responded quickly. He said they were better off under his leadership. Prices were lower. Jobs were stronger. America was respected. People had more money. That, he said, is what matters, results. Some applause followed. He continued, saying people were tired of talk. They wanted someone who could win, secure borders, and protect communities. He had done it before and would do it again. It was confident and familiar. Then Crockett spoke. You're right, she said calmly. People are tired. But not just of talk. They're tired of being misled. The room went still. She spoke about working-class families, possibly in Texas, working multiple jobs, unable to afford health care, choosing between food and medicine. Trump scoffed quietly but stayed silent. She continued, mentioning rising rent, underfunded schools, and layoffs after factory closures. The room listened. The tone had shifted once again. Despite the many promises he made about protecting American jobs, she did not hesitate. And when people searched for leadership, they didn't find a president. They found someone on a golf course, posting insults online. A low murmur moved through the audience. It wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Trump's expression tightened. The ease faded. The familiar grin vanished. He tried to interrupt. That's fake. But Crockett stopped him. No, sir, she replied. This isn't fake. This is what I hear in homes across this country. Not at fundraisers. Not at private clubs. On front porches, in churches, in clinics. I don't need a private jet to understand their struggles. I've lived them. At that point, this was no longer a debate. It was testimony. And the family she spoke about, she continued, want honesty. They want leadership that remembers them beyond election season. They want clean water, safe neighborhoods, fair wages, and respect. They want a president who sees them, not just himself. That statement landed hard. Trump, usually quick with a response, stayed silent. He shifted slightly. His hand moved toward his water bottle, then stopped. It wasn't that he was shut down. He was caught off guard. For the first time that evening, he looked like he wanted the moment to end. Crockett concluded calmly. I don't claim to have every answer. But I will never act like I'm the only one who matters. Leadership isn't about your name, your brand, or settling scores. It's about service. Then she leaned back. The silence stretched. Even the moderator stayed still. It became clear this wasn't just an uncomfortable moment. It was a realization. Trump had thrown out a challenge expecting control, attention, and an easy win. Instead, he brought in someone who wasn't there to perform. Jasmine Crockett didn't just speak longer. She spoke with grounding, with understanding, and with connection to the people he said he represented. And now, all he could do was sit with it. The atmosphere had shifted. The tension was thick, heavy with awareness. The audience, once reactive, now sat quietly, processing what they had witnessed. Donald Trump, often dominant in these settings, appeared human, slower, less certain. Crockett, meanwhile, remained composed, steady, and focused. There was one question left. The moderator, more careful now, looked between them and read the final prompt. What do you want the American people to remember about you after tonight? It wasn't about policy or polling. It was personal and final. Trump leaned into the microphone. His voice was lower. I want people to remember that I fought, he said. I challenged the establishment, the media, the deep state because I care about this country. I didn't have to run. I already had everything. But I did it because I love America. He paused and looked into the camera. I made America strong. I made it respected. And I'll do it again. There was no applause. Just silence. He leaned back, his face tight. He had said what he wanted to say, but even he seemed unsure how it landed. Then it was Crockett's turn. She didn't pause. I want the American people to remember that I listened, she said. That I wasn't here to talk about myself, but to speak for those who are rarely heard. Her voice was steady but filled the room. I didn't grow up with power. I wasn't born into wealth. I've struggled. I've been overlooked. I've had doors closed in my face. But I kept going because I knew someone, somewhere, needed someone like me to stand up for them. She scanned the audience slowly, as if meeting every face. I won't promise that everything will be easy. I won't promise perfection. But I do promise this. I will never forget who I serve. I will never place my name above the people. And I will never step away from doing what's right. Her voice never shook. It didn't rise, but it carried meaning. And when the cameras shut off, she continued, when the lights dim and the commentary begins, remember this. There is a difference between a performer and a public servant. One seeks applause. The other accepts accountability. That final line landed. Not just because of who sat across from her, but because everyone watching understood it. She nodded slightly to the moderator. That's all. Trump didn't respond. He didn't interrupt. He didn't lean forward. He sat quietly, hands together, lips pressed tight. For once, he didn't have the final word. The moderator, aware of the weight of the moment, took a breath and thanked both candidates. The lights dimmed. The microphones shut off. But the moment lingered. People stood slowly, not rushing out, but as if leaving a courtroom after a verdict. That's what it felt like, a judgment of leadership, character, and purpose. Trump showed what he often shows. Confidence, defiance, certainty. But Crockett did something different. She revealed truth. Not the kind measured by numbers, but the kind shaped by experience, persistence, and meaning every word spoken. As the stage emptied and the night came to a close, one thought remained in the air. He challenged her, and he never saw her coming.